welcome to the 25th virtual meetup, folks. Yeah, before starting, a huge shout out to Browser Stack, our exclusive sponsor for all our community events and premier sponsor for our conferences. Now about the session. Ganesh, I'll just call up Ganesh. He will introduce himself and then we can start the session.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. I think your camera is off for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ganesh, first of all, thank you very much for doing this. And now you can share your screen, give us a
Yep.
brief intro about yourself, and then we are good to go.
18. Yep. Yes. I'm working as a QA engineer in Transunion, and I have total 11 years of experience. All through my 11 years, I worked into insurance domain, retail domain. So yeah, this is. I have total 11 years of experience. I've been working into UI and API. I work for a load test. So all through my 11 years, so I predominantly work for the automation as well as manual. And yes, I right now I'm working in an organization of name called Transunion. Yes, I'm leading a team for a test automation, and we used to do a lot of like automation steps in our organization. So talking about that API testing, I've been using this API testing using Postman from the year of 2020 and almost 4 years. So I've been using this Postman tool, and yes, I'm looking forward to speak or talk more about that API testing, which we can do in our the session. So like to know, tell about like what is API and all with some real time example. I'd like to extend this my session with my monitor. So I'm turning off my cam for a while. So the real time nowadays, like everybody is talking about like API. So like how does the API is working? So we'll give a couple of examples so that we'll take it from there. So one is like, if you want to create an account and log in with your Facebook or Google credentials, so we were using API. So that in terms any application if you want to log in, that is indirectly asking like, to log in with their Google credentials. So that application is talks via Google via API. That's how it's working. And also the weather app, so we used to have to get a weather daily weather, right? So that's how that API is working. So whether application is creating the data and we are reading that any portal or any devices which is reading that details from that API. So that's how that API talks to each other and it's working. So yes, API stands for like an application programming interface. It has an interface interacts between multiple software applications. So we'll take another one more examples. We want to create a passport. Okay, we want to go create a passport. So we have two options. One, we can fill via online applications, and we'll do the payment as soon as we submit. So it will go. So as well as the other option is we'll go directly to that passport seva passport seva kendra, and we'll fill that application manually, and we'll give the form and payment everything. Then we'll give it under to that person sitting into uh, that area where that reception area. So that will happen as soon as we submit our details. We don't know how the backend is working, so how the data and everything is creating. So they have their own API. They want to do any verification or details and all. So they will whatever the details we submitted. So they will do the verifications and the creation everything. So everything is happening via the API. That's how the API works. So we don't know what is happening in the internally, but we know like once as soon as we submit, we'll receive our passport after the verification. So but internally, a lot of things were happening. That's how that API works. Yeah. So this is how the monolithic architecture. Earlier we used in the year of around 2010 or 28 before that API things are coming. So we used to have UI. So there will be a business logic inside. There is a data access layer. You remember like when we have a downtime or something, the application will go down. The URL will go down. It will show like 500 error or something in the initial time. Nowadays in the real time scenarios like Amazon sale and all, so everything is working API through API. So one section of like when we split into the API, so we don't bother about like one service is going down. For example, in Amazon API, Amazon sale, so there is shopping cart for watches or electronic gadgets. If one service is down, other service will work up and run, so it won't impact others things. That's how like API things are evolved. And also we can access through desktop mobile, even any devices like in if you go to ATM or in if you go to theater or mall, there will be a ticket booking option. So everything will work via API. So one API will serve for many things. That's one of the major advantage of API. And yeah, so other thing is like, what is why API is growing in demand. Like, as I told you, there are more API based applications, and API is very faster when compared to other things like JSON, XML, and also or SOAP, XML. When compared to that, API is very faster, and it's easier and isolated. So as I told, like, we can provide API. We have a full control of APIs. We don't expose everything to that, people who consume the API, and the failure is less. So that's any system. These are the basic things it's required. So that's how the API is working. And it's also more lightweight. Most of the cloud applications are using nowadays are the API REST APIs, and yeah, like more cloud services, everything is using. And in talks about API testing, why we need to go for API testings, like test evangelist like Mike Cons is telling about. So if you do more API testing or more web API testing, will concentrate less about the UI testing. So that's how, like, as soon as we do like a more API testing, we need to only that look and feel and everything will do it in the UI testing. And that's how the pyramid displayed. So we can spend less time in that UI. As we know, all testing community knows, UI is taking a lot of time to execute. If we run like 1,000 test cases in API, it will run immediately, and almost like 30 to 40 minutes we'll be able to complete approximately, I'm talking about. Whereas the same thing when you go for a UI, so it will take a lot of failures and more time to take. So that's how that UI testing is. So that's why people are going for more on API testing. And then moving on to that Postman, yeah, as I already told, like I've been using Postman for 4.5 years. What one thing I love about Postman is, like they were introducing a lot of features in it. So recently they were introduced like a post bat, and like load test. What other things are required for the API testing or API creation, API development, everything they were taking into the Postman. So I've seen the tool from right from the beginning. Like when I mean, since from 2020, from that to now, a lot of improvements, a lot of things are there. So when they were getting more fronts, and they were improving the tool. Everything is good. The promotion, their community, everything is too good when compared to others. That's how they were leading the market. And yeah, so more on that, the Postman, when we talk about, suppose both REST and SOAP, also like a latest GraphQL, gRPC, latest web services technology as well. And Postman is an API platform which is building and using an API. We can create and test better, faster in Postman. So that is that is a major advantage of the Postman. We can do the development as well as the testing. Since we are talking about the testing part here, so I've been preferably talk more about that testing. It initially began as a REST client, okay, and it has been evolved into today's comprehensive Postman application. So it has been started with a small REST client. So slowly they've adopted all that latest technologies. It has been evolved like a lot, and it has more than 30 million registered users and 75,000 open APIs. So these are it is one of the largest public API hub. So that's how the Postman stands still in that market. And it's not a free open source tool, it's a proprietary license. And yeah, with the open source components. But my experience, what I talk about, like we can do almost all that major things we can use through that free license or free things. And few components, for example, if we want to go for more monitor applications and the less time of those kind of things, we need to go for the license thing. And if we want to share that our Postman collection across the team, those kind of thing, we need to go for a license things. Few features only, it's right. But according to my my experience, tool which I'm using, so we can do it in a free source itself. We need to register in a Postman for that. Uh, So we need to register as a postman with that as a user. Then we'll use it. We'll take it the collection into the public profile. We can use like a workspace into private, public. So our private, public, and everything. One more major benefit is if we have a license tool, we can keep our workspace in a private. Whereas in like free thing, we need to keep. No, we're not able to keep it in a private thing. So few benefits are there in that license things. So we can share our collections and workspaces. We can add our things. It's like my profile of Postman, and yes. So these are the benefits out there. It is available for both web and desktop based application. Today we are going to talk about best desktop things. So few functionalities will not work in the web. For as if we want to go further, find and replace, those kind of options will not work in the web. And I would suggest go for the desktop based application. It is cool to use it. And yes, so we'll talk more about like HTTP methods, since it is REST API. So we need to talk about methods and all. So these are the major, I mean, predominantly we use these HTTP methods like get, post, put, patch, and delete. So in our things will our demo will watch through that get and post method today, and also we'll use like a put, patch, and delete. If we want to create retrieve any values, we'll go for a get method. If we want to create any resource, we'll go for a post method. So for example, I'm using the developer tools. Okay, so we want to observe like how that method is working, so that if you see it through UI, we can connect via that the validation which you're going to do the postman. The same thing, whatever do the operations which we do in that UI, the same thing is calling that backend, the API. That's how we are going to validate everything in the API. So instead of calling it a UI, that's why I'm going to talk about this one. So this is a Google thing. I'm going for this one. So in this network tab, it's a DevTool network tab. So I'm just clearing for this one. So I'm going to search about test type thing. So a lot of calls, internal calls are happening. That everything is happening for a API only. So if we go and search this one, this is the parameter which we are going to talk little later. So this is how the request is going, and since it's a get method, there is no payload, request payload. Whereas this is how that response code, what are the methods we call, so origin, those kind of details. This is how it's whatever do operations we are doing in our UI. That's how it's backend. It's the API would call. So we'll see quickly for another post method. So since I already logged in, it shows my details. So we'll see that if we can press F12 in that one, so we could able to see that one. I'm trying to create a one account. So that's how that post method would call. As soon as we submit the login button, we'll be able to find like the methods, what are the API methods which is calling in the background. So in this login method, could able to see it's a post method, since we are creating a resource, and the response code is 200. And if you go to the payload area, we can can able to see that details which I submitted in this one. That's how we can able to connect this UI into the API. We'll talk more about like API, how we need to build it, because as I told initially, if you do more API testing, we'll spend less time in the UI. So that's how the API things. Along with that, a lot of other advantages are there. So for example, any projects which are coming, like everything is like API first project nowadays. So if we have a API ready, every requirement initially, as soon as the project starts, that the analyst, business analyst, everybody is working for that API documentation. Once the API documentation is ready, they will share with us, so that with using this one, uh, we can create a testing parallelly. Development will start parallelly, so we can start our work testing early. So that's how the thing is happening in nowadays. Yeah. So we'll talk about like how we need to create a mock server and all in another session. This is like about like how to set up a thing, because when you have a mock server and all, so as soon as that I mean the requirement is ready for API, we can create a mock server. Then we can able to create a test case. We can start our testing as soon as the development parallelly. We can start with that development. So that's all the advantages are there. Yes. Now we'll go to and explore about the tool. So this is the Postman tool. So I'm opening from my desktop. So it is my in the desktop area is the desktop icon. So I'm opening the tool, clicking it. As soon as we open the tool, first thing is like this left side, this is the collection area. So where we will create a different collections. This is the environment section. This mock server and history. So that we'll see it later. And first thing is like we need to create a workspace. That is very important thing. Workspace is, imagine we have a a laptop which is having a drive. So for example, C drive or E drive, that we imagine that is a workspace. Inside drive we can create a folder. That is nothing but a collection, which we are going to do it now. So inside that folder will create a different files. For example, Excel file, different files. Likewise, we'll create a different collections, and for example different records in the collection, so that we can imagine the way. For this one, uh, yeah, about more on that one. This is that the settings area where we'll do that different settings, like we want to disable the SSL certification for the API, and if we want to increase any font size, so those kind of things and all we'll do it in the settings area. And we'll create a collection and folder and a little later. And yes, the environments also we'll talk about in this one. And yeah, so I think this is how like we can play around with the tool. So there is a console. In this console, whatever we send through the details, everything will capture here, like how it has been capturing in that the example which we see now. Similar way it has been captured. The tool has been designed in the way it has been yeah, it has been created. Postman has been developed in Electron JavaScript applications. It supports for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS as well. And yes, we'll create a collection now straight away. I'm using my existing workspace. If we want to create a workspace also, we can create it. So I'm going to create a collection now. This is the option to create a workspace. So we need to click a new button. Now I'm going to create a collection with a name called test type demo. We need to, this is the environment tab, the environment area. We need to go to the collection tab. So as soon as we created it, so it will, since I have a lot of collections, so we need to put that in a spotlight mode. So this spotlight mode, when you put that the collection will come in that recent use area. So we can give a description of the collection and everything if you want to give it. And this collection area, uh, we can have a test or something. We can add it in top of the things as well. Also we want to add a new request, so we can create this add request button. So by default, it will show get method. If we want to go for the post method, we need to select and save this one. By default, it will display that get method. So as we discussed in the things, we want to retrieve details, if we want to create a resource, if we want to update uh, anything, so we'll use for these methods. These are the 5 major methods which we use it. Also, one more thing is like in real time we'll think about like why put and patch is both is available for update. So I'd like to give another examples why how the post put and patches works. So if you want to update for the major resource, for example, Ganesh as a person, I would like to move my address. I mean, I'm moving from Chennai to Bangalore. So my address would get changed completely. For example, I move to the Bangalore, my address would get completely changed. In that case, we'll go for a put method, because my address details I need to update everything like a street, and city, and then state, everything, and with including pin code we need to update it. If we want to go, I mean, Ganesh is moving from one place to another place inside the Chennai. I'm residing at Chennai, so I'll go for for example, I'm staying in an area called Ananagar. So I'm going to from Ananagar first main road to I'm shifting my house to second main road. So that case, my state will not change, my city will not change. Only the address particular line will go. That case will go for a patch method. That's a major things. So we'll go back to that, the method where we kept it. So we are going to use first the get method by seeing an example. I chose a couple of things. Whatever the references which I'm going to talk about. So I created in a document. So I'll share it in that chat area. We'll see it about this. And yeah, so I'm going to use first thing in the API called news API. It's an open source API. If you want to explore the things, you can use it this one. For this one, we need to register it so that they will give a unique API key. This is the example which we seen initially. Like I'm providing my Gmail details so that it's been logging with my Gmail credentials. So, and I'm going back to that home page of this one. So it has given me a unique API key. I'll talk little later about this one. So here there are many methods, and so I'm going to use this API everything API. This is everything API. So as soon as we start our project, they'll give a kind of a documentation. API documentation is very important. So it would be come in this, I mean, kind of a web page or else wiki page and all. Also, I mean, based on that team and that how it has been created. This is the rough idea I'll given. This is how the API document would look like. Also, we can see the Swagger document as well in the other example. So they'll give an high level of the method details, the API key. So which in this case, the API key which I've created, the endpoint URL, and authentication. So there are many types of authentication, so which also we'll talk about little later, and the average response time, and the content type, is it an application or JSON or XML, and they'll give since it's a get method, there is no request, so they'll give sample response, and the response codes also they will give it. So this is how they'll give an high level of things. As a testing perception, we need to take this an input and we need to create it. As soon as we got the details, we know how to create a endpoint URL and all. In that endpoint URL, there is something, so this is the endpoint URL which the same one which I copied from here. So till this api.org, it's a base URL, and after slash there will be a different version they'll give it, till this query with question mark, it's nothing but the endpoint path, and after this everything is a query param. These are the three things, like if you want to I mean if you want to understand about that URL. So I'm going to use this URL, my first thing. You can give any name, like I'm going to talk about retrieve name of this request. As soon as I pasted it, the tool smartly it will find what are the query param. These are the query params, and so authentication. Since I told her there is no auth, and this is a get method. We don't have any request body. We'll see that request body details in the next method. That is next example. So I'm going to send this detail. So, and also I'm going to enable this console portal. So I'll tell like how the requests are working. Similar way which we seen in a Google. So it has been displaying this kind of information. And when you expand this in that console area, so we can understand the request headers, response headers, and response body. Okay, it's a more than 10 kb, so that it's not able to display. So but eventually it will display all that. If the responses size is less, it will display the details here. So that's how we need to set up our API as soon as we get the details from right from the documentation, or else any Swagger document, everything. Okay, that's how we need to set it. Okay, as soon as we set this one, we'll able to see something called status code. Okay, there are different types of status codes are available, and that is very first thing for a test API testing. So we need to verify that status code. That is very the first thing. So this is the document has been now created by Marcelo. So the response code, there is it is a standard HTTP standard. Everybody who goes for any website, REST, any API, they should follow the standard. It's based on the standards. It's been created by HTTP. So between the range, if you want to see like any response code, in this one we got it as 200. So 200 false here. It's a successful response. So they'll give a detailed explanation of this. Why if 201, what is that? Description of this one, status code description. If you send some incorrect details, so it will throw some error. This case, it's everything has been developed. If development would have been captured things well, so here it's giving some random things. But in general, if you give incorrect details, if you provide in the request under, it will go some client error would fall under 400 cs. So this client error, if any mistake in the request, if there is no incorrect authentication, or else we're not giving any authentication, it will fall under these things. I mean, in my experience, I'd say like around will work around 10 to 15 HTTP methods. Will not go for all the methods in our things, but there every standard code is having a meaning. Okay, so that we can see it. Yeah, we cover like workspace collection, and there is some option called folder. We'll see it. In this one I want to go for a creation, or else in this case itself I'll go for this one, news API itself. So there is, if you click on this three dots under the collection, we can create a folder. Okay, this folder I'm going to name it as news API, and I'm going to create another folder which will talk about request response API. So we can move around this API under this folder. So this is how inside this folder we have a different subfolder. I mean, inside the collection we have a different subfolder. We can create it, and yeah, settings will see it. Uh, Variables, will talk about the variables. That is very important thing for any automation, not only for that API or Postman. It's a general things. We have many variables available in Postman. So one among is the environment. This is very important. For example, if I have a set of automation which I've created, I want to run it in that SIT, system integration testing area, or else UAT, or else any pre-prod environment which we have. So if the request is same, also only thing is I need to change the endpoint URL. For example, in this case, I'm going to add these particular details, or else till here in an environment. So I'm going to create a new environment by selecting this new environment tab. Okay, and I'm going to pause it as uh, SIT, or imagine it's an SIT environment, and I'm saving this one. So now, as we come back here, we need to select this environment first. That is very important things. From the drop down, we need to select this environment. Then this collection is pointing to this respective environment, and here we need to put a flower bracket. It will give the environment details. So it's a smart idea, I think. I'm mistakenly put it here. So that when you mouse on it, it represents the environment which is stored there. So same scenario, if I want to run this in a UAT environment, there is no change in request, only small minor modification there in the values of the request. We can modify these environment details from SIT to UAT, then it will run it. So this is how that environment variable works. Also, there is something called collection variable. I want to add any variables in which is only for this collection, I can add it. Okay, so in this by clicking the collection, there is a tab called variable, so we can add that variable here. And there is something called global variable. So I want to declare a global things in our UI automation. Will something will declare the pi value in max pi value will declare in the top right. So any those kind of things, if you want to declare for everything, we can give it in a global variable. For that, we need to click this environment quick look, the icon I symbol. So there will be a global area section where we can add it any new variable details. For example, sample global variable, we need to add the value here, and we need to save it respective environment thing. And also one more variable is there, that is nothing but a local variable, and that will use it in or during our assertion area. So these are the four things. And also one more thing is that is nothing but the data variable. Will use it when you do the parameterization and all, but we are not going to cover it now. But there is an option if you want to run the collection, if you want to run the request with the different values. And for example, the same request want to run for a 10 or 100 of different values, we'll go for a parameter like that. We can run it via collection thing. For that, we'll go to the data variable. So that is that. So these are the variable details are available. Back to that things. Yeah, documentation and code snippet. Yeah, so if we want to there is an option called Postman documentation. If you share this collection to someone, okay, within a team or other teams, if they want to understand the collection details, what is happened return, so there is an option called documentation in the Postman. If you go to the right side area, so this documentation things, if we see it, so they will give some details like what is a method, like I've written here, right? So method, API key, above this API, above this records, everything you can give in the document area, so that if somebody would have been imported this collection, so they can able to understand this collection details, how it works, what are the details about. If you're talking about anything about Amazon application, so we can talk about like what is Amazon, what are the sales details, everything. So like high level of details or else in depth. Also, if in my case I use something like how to import the Postman collection, so those details and all, how to run the Postman collections, those kind of details we can add it in this documentation area. Also, that is something that is very important thing is like for the assertion code and code snippet. Yeah, so there is an option called code, but I didn't explore it yet, but there is an option called code in this one. So in this right area, if we click this code thing, so it will give a different code. If you want to create a development of Postman or through any language or applications for this API which you have created, so you can get the code by default, like even if you want to go for the Java things and all, so everything like different languages is supports for a thing, but automatically it's been developed based on this the setup which we done now. Okay, so I didn't explore much in about that, the API creation or API development things, but there is an option as well. And yes, we've seen about code snippet and test session, which will follow more that. Yes, this is how we need to create it. Okay, for important thing about the testing is we need to for a assertion. Okay, and one more important thing about the Postman is people most of the people would thought like a Postman is a manual testing tool. We don't do any automation. Okay, not the case. Okay, we can do the fantastic automation through Postman in a less time. That's very important. So if we have a like old STLC, those kind of a model, we have enough time to create a first for a manual testing. We'll go for automation. Now it's everything's in agile, right? So we have a less time. So within in sprint automation, a lot of things are there. So we need to we have a less time. That I will strongly preferably suggest Postman to create an automation. Even we'll talk about that Postbot little later, the recent feature of Postman. So we no need to spend within a 30 minutes of time we'll do like a lot of automation. So we'll talk little later. So yeah, that's why I suggest, because it's itself a framework. So we have everything ready. We need to plug and play this details whatever we used to get from the requirement. So yes, that one thing is that assertion test assertion. So if we go to this one, uh, this is the request body area. I will talk about this one. This is the test area. We need to click it. So we need to see the postman order of execution first to understand this one. So this is, see this one. So here this in the snippet. So they will, I mean, there is a prerequisite before request runs. There is something called prerequisite, and once the request has been completed, there will be a response, and the response has been completed, there will be a test script. Okay, so I'll talk about the prerequisite with an example. Right now we set up a request. As soon as we submit the request, this is the response area which we got the response. I'm going to add a assertion for this response things. Okay, for this one we need to go in the add in the test script. We click the test script area and the test thing. So by default, they gave us some code snippets. Postman assertion, I mean assertion which we need to do in a JavaScript. We need to have a little bit of JavaScript knowledge to do the assertion. But nowadays, like using the post bot and all, they are giving a lot of features. We don't need to spend to create a test assertion and all. But if there is an issue or something, what I would suggest, like we need to understand a little bit about this one. So we need a basic JavaScript knowledge or else basic programming knowledge. It's not a very rocket science on that. So this in this snippet area, so there are a lot of options. Okay, so I'm going to add as status code. That is very first thing we need to do it. So if I go to add as soon as I click it, the method would come here. How to understand the method is like pm is nothing but the postman dot test. Okay, in this test we need to give a customized value. For this in our case, use API response code validation. Whatever we given a double quotes, it will display as like this, and comma followed by a function. It's a syntax, and the open and close bracket, and inside that one we need to have a thing. So here if we want to understand the thing, okay, the postman dot respond dot to have status. So we'll see how to understand this one. So simply I'm running this saving. After saving this one, I'm running this test. In this test results area, this is body area, the response body area, the test results area. So whatever the description which we added for this test, it is displaying here. Also, it is the test is pass. Okay, if suppose for a negative scenario, I'll add one mistake in this one, and incorrect status code. It will show an error like it is expecting to get a 200, but it is we are getting only, I mean it is expecting to get a 20, but we got 200. The actual method response is 200. So that's how this the test is working. And yeah, I'll give another example, and I'll let you know, like how the console, how things are working, how to understand the things. It's very easy if you spend some time. So I'm going to write a assertion for this status. For this one, I'm going to write a test like called pm dot test. I'm getting a name followed by a comma function. So inside that one, we need to add a one local variable, the variable which talked about the local variable. We can give a const where or let anything. We can give it in a JavaScript. There is some my difference is that scope of the variables are why we use where let and all. I'm going to use a const here, and we need to give a variable name. Okay, so sample response equal to pm dot response dot json. So here we need to understand the thing. So I'm going to simply run this one to understand this line of code. Okay. So as soon as we run it, this console area, the response body is not coming. Since it's huge, it's not coming. But whereas the code represents pm postman dot response dot json. What are the values in that response json area value is coming in the response? It is storing in that variable. And if you write another assertion script, pm dot expert, whatever the values which is coming in the response, it has been available in this variable dot. I'm going to validate these test results to equal number which I got here. It shows like the validation is passed. The name of that as the API response validation is total results. Okay, the number is same. So since it's been same, the number is coming. I'm giving a negative scenario. Always check with the negative scenario whether it's working. The test session is working. Right? It shows like it is expecting to be a 14034, but we got only this 140 because we are setting this one. This is how we need to add a test assertions. Okay, similar way we can add for a string or else type or else any schema validations, response code response time as well. If you want to add a response time, there is a snippets available. If we click this one, it will show like it's been below 200 but right now that it's coming around 387 milliseconds time. So I'm going to add 400. It's passed beyond 400, so that's why it's failing. So that it's in a millisecond thing. I'm going to add it 1000 in order to get past this test. Show something. Yeah, this time is passed now. Okay, this other session is failing due to this number thing. This is a different test, not this one. So this is how we need to add a thing. Okay, quickly we'll go and have to set up one more thing in a post method. As soon as in the request area, we need to select this post method. By default, it will get method. Okay, and we need to go to that another example. It's also readily available. We can use this one. I'm going to select this post method. Okay, this is kind of a documentation. We can see that one. If I click the right click on this one, it will give a new tab. It will give the details of this the endpoint URL. I'm going to add it here quickly. And once we save, then only it will get saved. Okay, we need to save everything in that one, whatever things. And since there is no authorization, And in this body, we need to, since it's a post method, we need to have a payload. We need to select a body, and we need to select a raw, and we need, by default it's a JSON. If we want to go for a XML, we need to select this one. Also the Postman as I told, Postman support XML as well. So I have a document, I'll share the details. So in this payload, I'm going to give the details of this request information. For example, this one, I'm going to use a test type, leading test community. Also, if you want to add an email and all, there is something random methods are available in that Postman. We can use it. See, if you put a two-player bracket under the symbol of the dollar symbol, if you add like a random email, it will create a random email. So in a test data creation and all, so we can use it. So it will create a random email details like Anthony, that things, next things and all. We'll add it. The thing, okay. If we want to add something in that request, okay, prerequisite, also we can add it. Okay, for example, I want to add a request. The request will go for every time the unique request will go. So that time and all, we can add something in the prerequisite, as we seen in that previous example. The Postman works how that once the prerequisite run, then only request area would go. So we'll quickly add it one more thing. So I'm going to add one more constant in the prerequisite area. So I put a sample number. Okay, I'm going to use the math dot random method. So I'm going to print the value first. So the method which is working fine. This is how we can see it in a debug in a Postman. So whether value is coming, this is a clear button to clear a value. So it's coming a random number of 94. And as soon as we receive this one, I can set this value in any variable. I'm going to set this as a global variable. So the value of the variable is number gen, and that value we need to represent it, which is coming from here, sample number. Go and check the details here in this. Oh, yeah, something is, yeah, we need to give this. Yeah, the value is set as number gen. We can use this number gen value in the request. If we have request, we can put this number here itself. So test type 56 number is coming. If you want to give a random value for everything, because that time and all, we can use this prerequisite. Before the request works, then it used to works. So this is how we need to create a post and put method and all. Let me quickly walk through about like how to run it in the CLI. So that is very important. If you want to run this collection, when you click this, there are many ways to run the collection. If you click the three dots button, there is something called run collection area. We can run the collection like run manually. The recent ethics like automate runs via CLI and all, it's been added. So I want to run this in the collection runner. There's a collection runner option. If you want to run the collection via Newman is a CLI for Postman. So I'm clicking three dots here. I'm going to export this collection. So I'm going to store it as in a folder name called CLI in a test type. As soon as I go to the folder, okay, I'm going to the command prompt in this particular path. And we need to give an option called Newman run. This is syntax to run this Postman thing. I think, yeah, we need to, since we added a variable, environment variable, we need to give it here the value. And I'm going to remove this one because we can also give that variable details, environment variable details, but for the time concern, I'm going to remove this one. I'm quickly checking whether it's running correctly. Again, I'm exporting the value that recent update should reflect. I'm saving it the same name. I mean, I'm going back to this thing. Yeah, it's been running now. So this is how we need to run this Postman collection via CLI. Also, there is an option called HTML extra report. It's been created by Danny. He's working as a QA evangelist in Postman. -r HTML extra. If you run this one, we'll get a detailed HTML report. It will be created inside this. There will be another folder which will create in that Newman. We check the details. So it will give a detailed input report of this HTML report of this request. What are the assertions which we added, and summary of number of assertions, if there are any failed test case and everything. Also, we can see the request and response detail as well, so that we can keep it as a metrics. Okay, as soon as we run the test or something, so we can keep it as for a future things for reference, or if we want to share attach it in any our test data management tool, we can add it here. These are the things. One last thing is like a Postman bot, so which is not in our agenda, but there is an option, because the test whatever we add it, right, if we want to add in the test area, there is a Postman bot. Post bot is there. It's a AI generated tool. It's not available for all, but yeah, we need to register it. It's kind of early bird offer. If we click this one, it will ask what are the sessions or what are the options we need to do. I want to add a test for this one. Okay, so it will, whatever the work which you've done manually, it is automatically creating. That is the beauty of the tool. Okay, see, everything has been added. If we send, once we save and send it, it's been added. If you want to visualize the data, visualize is to see the details. Yeah, I mean, most of the options are there through the Postman. This is how we need to explore the Postman tool. I have walked through the questions in that next session, so I'll answer if I can. If I don't know anything, I'll also get back to you. And yes, I'm available in that LinkedIn. If you want to ask something related to the Postman things, you can ask me. The name of Ganesh Manoharan. Also, I'll share the document. Okay, so we can have an option like how to run a Postman collection via Newman. Every steps, how to set up the XML validation of the Postman. I mean, we want to convert the Postman into Java JMeter script. A lot of advanced Postman automation concept and everything I have added in this yeah, the document. I'll share the document. So these are the things are available. So yes, team, this is how we need to do a quick automation, but it's a big tool. It's not it will take more than one time, so we'll get time from test drive for another session. We'll walk through further as to what comes in. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. Thank you very much, Ganesh. We are having few questions. So currently, I can see I got okay. Can we chain request where response of dot is it a dot no
Yeah.
get services as payload for a post or put with few changes question mark.
Yeah, we can do that request chaining. That is very important things. Yeah, as I told, like I'll share the document for the request chaining. I've added it in everything in the advanced concept. Yes,
Perfect.
if the response of a one request or a thing, we can pass it to the other request. There is an option. That is very
Perfect.
important.
That's amazing. Uh, Next question is, can we connect to external database using Postman and perform assertions?
There are things like we can do it, but I didn't give a try yet. But there is an option. There is a URL called postman.community. In that one, all that Postman, I mean, people who are using Postman, experts in JavaScript, everybody is there. There is an option we can do it.
Okay. Perfect.
But one thing is,
No, go on.
all that I mean, database should be exposed as API. Okay, if it is being exposed as API, we can use that API to retrieve the value from the DB. It's
Okay.
easy. Anything is an
Th-
API, we can do it.
Yeah. This is the last question. Is it give the answer response API performance using Postman canary, or we can check directly using JMeter?
We can convert this Postman API test into Postman JMeter request. There is an option. I'll share the document for this one. I've done it earlier. The recent Postman things has added for a load test. Okay, we can do the load test. How we are doing the same way in JMeter, but it's in a kind of a beta version. It's not completely coming up, but we can do it. So we can convert the Postman request into the JMeter script. Also, there is an option available in Postman itself to do that load test for APIs.
Yeah. Hi, Ishan. Yeah, Ganesh, thank you very much for taking out time for
Thank
us.
you, Arun.
Um,
Thank you. I'd like to thank Test Tribe team and this entire audience of participants who joined here, patiently waiting for the time. It
yeah,
requires a lot of time because it's a big tool. But yeah, I'll
yeah,
try to get another session. We'll convert.
sure,
Simply wait. It's like kickstart to our API journey. We can start
yeah,
it in a way.
sure.
And Shashank, I would like to thank Shashank. Everybody, thanks a lot.
Perfect.